A legendary action, stars sought a quiet moment of reflection. But a rookie cop, armed with a fragile ego and a loaded pistol, decided to make him a target. He chose the wrong man, in the wrong car, on the wrong day. The California sun, a soft gold in the late afternoon, filtered through the colossal canopy of ancient redwoods, painting stripes of light across the manicured lawns of Cypress Ridge Park. It was a sanctuary of serenity, the distant hum of city traffic replaced by the rustle of leaves and the clean, sharp scent of pine. This was where Jason Statham came to reset the world. Seated behind the wheel of his obsidian Audi RS Q8, a beast of German engineering purring in near silence, he was the picture of stillness. The driver's window was halfway down, letting in a cool breeze that did little to disturb the focused calm on his face. At 60, the lines etched around his eyes were deeper, telling tales of countless film sets, grueling training sessions, and a life lived at maximum velocity. But his gaze, fixed on a hawk circling high above the trees, was as sharp and discerning as ever. He took a slow sip from a bottle of Fiji water, the simple act of form of meditation. He had just wrapped a punishing 3-month shoot in Eastern Europe, a whirlwind of controlled explosions and meticulously choreographed violence. Here, in the quiet, he was just a man watching the world turn. Across the park, however, the world was being watched through a very different lens. Officer Kyler Evans, 28 years old and barely 6 months out of the academy, sat in his patrol car, his mirrored aviator sunglasses hiding a pair of eyes hungry for action. He saw the park not as a community haven, but as a grid of potential infractions. Every parked car was a possible drug deal. Every group of teens, a potential disturbance. Evans carried a chip on his shoulder the size of a service pistol, a desperate need to prove he was more than a rookie filling a uniform. His posture was ramrod straight, his high-end tight, haircut a testament to his rigid worldview. And then he saw it, the RS Q8. It was parked perfectly legally in a slightly secluded spot overlooking the reservoir. But in Evans's mind, it was an anomaly. Too much car for a public park. Too quiet. The man inside was too still. Suspicious. It was all the justification he needed. With a self-satisfied smirk, Evans flicked on his light bar, the silent strobes of red and blue slicing through the tranquil scene. He radioed in a suspicious vehicle, his voice brimming with unearned authority, before pulling his cruiser in a tight, aggressive arc, stopping directly behind the Audi. The calm was officially over. Jason Statham watched the cruiser's approach in his side view mirror, his expression unchanging. There was no surprise, no anxiety, just a quiet, weary resignation. He'd seen this script play out before, in different cities, with different actors, but always with the same theme. He deliberately reached forward, the engine dying with a soft sigh. He then placed both hands on the steering wheel at the 10-2 position, fingers interlaced, making them clearly visible. A sharp, percussive knock on the driver's side glass shattered the silence. Statham turned his head slowly, meeting the reflection of Officer Evans in the window. "Roll it all the way down," the officer commanded, his voice tight and clipped, already radiating hostility. Statham complied, the window gliding down smoothly. Evans leaned in, his jaw working on imaginary gum. License and registration. It wasn't a request, it was a demand. Statham didn't move his hands from the wheel. "On what grounds, officer?" he asked, his voice a low, gravelly baritone, devoid of any challenge but rich with genuine curiosity. The simple, procedural question was a spark on dry tinder. Evans saw it as defiance. "On the grounds that I'm telling you to," he snapped, his hand dropping to rest proprietorially on his holstered Glock. "You're loitering in a high-profile vehicle. Could be casing the area. You think you're above the law in a car like this?" The officer's eyes, hidden behind the mirrored lenses, scanned the interior of the car, looking for anything to validate his manufactured suspicion. Statham's gaze remained steady on the young man's face. He could see the insecurity beneath the bluster, the fear masquerading as aggression. "You seem awfully tense for a routine check, son," he said. The word son, carrying the weight of decades of experience. That was the breaking point. The perceived condescension, the unshakable calm of the man in the expensive car. It was a direct assault on Evans's fragile ego. His training, his discipline, everything evaporated in a hot flash of pride and adrenaline. In a move that would define and destroy his career, his hand unclipped the holster. The sound of the Glock clearing leather was unnaturally loud in the quiet park. I said, "Step out of the vehicle. Now," Evans barked, his voice cracking slightly as he leveled the pistol, pointing it directly at Jason Statham's head. A collective gasp rippled through the park. A young couple walking their dog froze in place. On a nearby patch of grass, a teenager named Leo, who had been trying to film a TikTok dance, instinctively swung his phone around. His screen went live. The caption, typed in a panic, "OMG, cop just pulled a gun on this guy at Cypress Ridge." The sunlight glinted off the polished steel of the slide, a cold, deadly star in the peaceful afternoon. The barrel of the Glock was less than 3 feet from his face, but Jason Statham didn't flinch. His heart rate, he noted with detached professionalism, remained perfectly steady. His eyes narrowed slightly, not in fear, but in assessment. He saw the minute tremor in Officer Evans's hand, the way his knuckles were white from gripping the pistol too tightly. This wasn't a killer. It was a scared kid holding a deadly weapon. All the noise, all the tension of the moment seemed to fade into a silent, focused tunnel between him and the officer. Then he spoke. His voice was no louder than before, but it cut through the air with the precision of a scalpel. "You just point a loaded weapon at Jason Statham." The name didn't register at first. It was just a string of syllables. Then, like a photograph slowly developing in a darkroom, recognition dawned on Evans's face. The mirrored sunglasses couldn't hide the sudden slackening of his jaw, the flicker of disbelief and dawning horror in his posture. What did you say?" he stammered, the gun wavering. Statham ignored the question. "Keep your hands where I can see them," Evans blurted out, a desperate attempt to reclaim a control he had already lost. Statham slowly, deliberately, moved his right hand off the steering wheel and toward the glove compartment. "Don't move!" Evans screamed, his voice shrill. Statham's hand didn't even pause. He opened the compartment and retrieved a simple, black leather wallet. He flipped it open, not to a driver's license, but to a laminated card bearing the iconic crest of the Los Angeles Police Department. "LAPD," Statham said, his voice flat and final. "Special Tactical Consultant." The effect was instantaneous and absolute. Officer Evans physically staggered back a step, as if struck. The Glock lowered, its muzzle now pointing at the ground, a defeated and useless piece of metal. The entire power dynamic had just been inverted with the force of a tectonic shift. With the fluid grace of a man whose body is a perfectly honed instrument, Statham opened the door and stepped out of the Audi. He stood to his full height, his presence alone seeming to shrink the young officer. He wasn't a civilian anymore. He was the authority in this situation. He turned his attention to the crowd of onlookers, his voice now carrying a tone of command. He pointed directly at Leo, who was still streaming. "Son, keep recording," Statham instructed, his voice calm but firm. "Make sure you get a clear shot of the officer's nameplate and badge number." He then gestured toward a woman who was fumbling with her phone on a park bench. "Ma'am, please call 911. Request this officer's supervising sergeant be dispatched to this location immediately. Tell them it's an officer-involved brandishing of a firearm against an unarmed civilian." He used their language, their codes, with more authority than the uniformed man standing before him. The legend had just taken control of the scene. The next 3 minutes stretched into an eternity. Officer Evans stood frozen, a monument to a career in its final, agonizing moments. The mirrored sunglasses were gone, revealing wide, terrified eyes. The park was filled with the accusing lenses of dozens of smartphones, each one a silent witness. Statham didn't speak to him, didn't even look at him. He simply leaned against the cool metal of his Audi, arms crossed, his silent, unwavering gaze fixed on the park entrance. His stillness was a more potent condemnation than any shouted accusation. Finally, the wail of a siren grew from a distant cry to a piercing shriek. A black, unmarked department SUV swerved into the parking lot and screeched to a halt. A man in his late 50s, wearing a perfectly pressed suit that couldn't conceal his muscular frame, stepped out. He wore the bars of a captain on his collar, and his face was a grim mask of controlled fury and profound anxiety. He strode directly toward Statham, his eyes ignoring Evans completely. "Mr. Statham," Captain Miller said, his voice strained but respectful. "I'm Captain Miller. I came the second I got the call. Please, tell me exactly what happened here." Statham didn't get emotional. He didn't raise his voice. He simply recounted the events with the cold, factual precision of an after-action report. "Your officer initiated a stop without probable cause. When questioned on procedure, he became agitated. He escalated a verbal exchange into a lethal force threat in under 60 seconds. He did not assess. He assumed. Each sentence was a hammer blow." Captain Miller listened intently, his jaw tightening with every word. When Statham finished, Miller turned his gaze upon Kyler Evans, and the temperature seemed to drop by 20 degrees. "You pulled your weapon?" he asked, his voice a low, dangerous growl. "On him. Are you out of your damn mind?" He walked right up to the young officer. "Give me your sidearm. Give me your badge. Now." Evans, his face ashen, fumbled to unclip his weapon and unpin his badge, his hands shaking so badly he almost dropped them. "You're on administrative leave, effective immediately," Miller snarled. "Get in the SUV." As another officer led the disgraced rookie away, Miller turned back to Statham. "On behalf of the Los Angeles Police Department, I am profoundly sorry." Statham held up a hand, cutting him off. "Don't apologize to me, Captain," he said, his voice leaving no room for argument. "Apologize to the next kid he might have pulled that gun on. The one who doesn't have my name or this ID to fall back on. This isn't about me. It's about your training. It failed. Fix it." Before Captain Miller's SUV had even cleared the park entrance, the firestorm had begun. Leo's TikTok stream had been screen recorded and mirrored across every social media platform imaginable. The hashtags were exploding. Hashtag Statham standoff. Hashtag Cypress cop fail. Hashtag real life action hero. By the time Statham arrived back at his home in the Hollywood Hills, the story was the #1 trending topic worldwide. News helicopters hovered over Cypress Ridge Park, their cameras capturing the scene of the incident like a movie set after the climactic showdown. The footage was electrifying. It was a perfect self-contained drama. The aggressive cop, the impossibly calm hero, the dramatic reveal, and the humiliating climb down. News outlets ran with it, their headlines a mix of sensationalism and genuine shock. Action Hero School's real-life cop on de-escalation. Jason Statham faces down reckless officer intense park encounter. It resonated so deeply because it wasn't just about a celebrity. It was a clear, undeniable visualization of a fear many ordinary people held. A routine interaction turning deadly because of an officer's ego. Statham's composure wasn't just cool, it was aspirational. It was how everyone wished they could react under pressure. The LAPD's public relations department went into immediate crisis mode. Their social media channels flooded with a tidal wave of outrage and ridicule. By nightfall, they had issued a terse statement confirming Officer Kyler Evans had been suspended without pay pending a full internal investigation. But the public was not satisfied with bureaucratic jargon. They wanted accountability. Seeing the narrative spinning into a referendum on policing itself, Statham's team acted decisively. Instead of an exclusive interview, they released a statement penned by Statham himself. It was a masterpiece of controlled strength. The badge should be a symbol of restraint, not a license for aggression. It read, "The most powerful weapon an officer carries is not on their hip, is their judgment. Yesterday, we saw a catastrophic failure of that judgment. We must demand a higher standard of professionalism and de-escalation from those we entrust with our safety. This isn't about one officer. It's about ensuring this never happens to anyone ever again. The statement was shared millions of times, elevating the incident from a viral moment into a catalyst for a national conversation. The public pressure, amplified by Statham's focused and articulate message, was relentless. A week after the incident, the mayor of Los Angeles and police chief Miller stood together at a press conference, the flashing cameras like a barrage of lightning. They announced a sweeping new set of departmental reforms. The centerpiece was a new citywide initiative requiring mandatory, quarterly de-escalation and implicit bias training for all officers. It included stricter protocols on when an officer was permitted to unholster their weapon and, most critically, a policy mandating that body cams be activated before initiating any civilian contact. Failure to do so would result in immediate suspension. In a telling moment, one reporter asked what the initiative would be called. The mayor paused, then said, "We're calling it the Professional Standards Initiative, but unofficially around the department, everyone is already calling it the Statham Standard." The name stuck. 2 days later, news broke that Kyler Evans had officially resigned from the force, preempting his inevitable termination. His one-sentence statement expressed regret for the distraction he had caused the department. The word "sorry" was conspicuously absent. 1 month later, Jason Statham returned to Cypress Ridge Park. He drove the same Audi, parked in the same secluded spot. The afternoon sun was just as warm, the scent of pine just as clean. He wasn't there to relive the moment, but to reclaim the peace that had been stolen from him. As he sat, sipping his water and watching the hawk once again trace patterns against the blue sky, a black and white patrol car slowed as it passed. The officer behind the wheel was a woman, a veteran with tired but knowing eyes. She saw him, recognized him instantly, and gave a single, slow, deliberate nod. It wasn't a gesture of awe for a movie star. It was a sign of professional respect. Statham nodded back. A silent, mutual understanding passed between them. That was the only acknowledgement he ever needed. The world may remember the day a cop pointed a gun at an action hero, but the real impact was quieter, more profound. It was in the new training manuals at the police academy, in the slight hesitation of an officer's hand, in the quiet nod of respect that said, "We heard you. We're trying." What does true strength really look like to you? Is it the power to intimidate, or the discipline to remain calm? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's have a real conversation about it. Comment respect if you believe composure is the ultimate weapon. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true stories where the tables get turned.